Welcome, magical people, back to my cupboard under the stairs. So, today we're going to look at the making of documentary, even though we've not seen the series yet, and cover the following points. So we're going to go over the introduction and some of the footage, looking at the casting of the trio, the animal animatronics, which is pretty cool, nature and magic, and clothing, so magical versus muggle. And we're going to get away with as much as we can without copyright infringement, I think. So, the way it's all put together, a documentary has sort of behind the scenes footage dotted all the way through. And as we work our way through, take note of the nature of all the natural elements in it, like trees and stuff like that, and how buildings and nature share space, unlike the Muggle world where we kind of like push nature away. Welcome to Hogwarts first years. I think we're all kind of feeling like we are first years again. Trying to catch a glimpse of the new school and all our new classmates and stuff like that. We want to see what everything looks like and what our teachers look like. And it kind of feels like we're all going back to school. Well, that's how I feel anyway. We get our first glimpse of the letter within the envelope. We saw the envelope previously. And yes, it is green handwriting. And I'm loving the embossed gold logo stamped on the front. It looks really nice. Very posh. We also have a shot of these random brooms. Not sure whose these are. But they are, well, two of them are in house colours. Surely they can't be the founders' brooms, but you never know. And then we get a shot of the Ravenclaw and Slytherin banners. It's nice to see an eagle. It is an eagle. I had to look it up, and it's in it actually looks uncannily like an Anglo-Saxon eagle from way back when. This is a 10th century style, which is much more book accurate because Hogwarts was founded in 900 and something. A lot more accurate, a lot more mature house logos, I think. Also here, we get to see Black 4 Blind 3/4 spelled out in words. I don't know, I thought it was kind of cool. So here we have a glimpse of the courtyard. It looks a lot more in tune with nature, almost like nature has taken over. The trees almost form part of the structure. In fact, I think they do in some places. I love the lamps, like the old school lamps. Almost like gas lamps. Well, might actually be gas lamps, I don't know. It's not electric anyway. Also, if you look towards the left, it looks like there's some sort of nook where you can sit down. There's like a little bench in there. It looks like a open mouth kind of thing. Kind of reminds me of the Chamber of Secrets with the mouth opening with Slytherin's basilisk thing. Also, the tweeds are twirly, which is more of a Hogwarts Legacy style thing, where they whole thing of wood and things all had this kind of like twist to them, and the logo had a little twist, and it all seems to match that. We of course hear that Hogwarts Legacy 2 is going to be related to the series somehow. Not quite sure how, but we'll find out, I guess, when that happens. Get a quick glimpse of the Ollivander shelves. So the boxes for the wands are different. Of course, their wand's going to be in a slightly different style because merch. And then we get Snape smiling because he's known for his smile and humour. In case it's behind the scenes, obviously. It's not actually a real thing, but people seem to think it is. This little map is quite cool. It's only there for a second. But it's not the journey the Hogwarts train takes. It's actually where the castings were for the Golden Trio. So you got Manchester for Alistair, London for Arabella, and Glasgow for Dominic. And then we kind of move on to the casting people. We're talking about seeing all the auditions. Apparently 40,000. I assume there was some sort of very quick process of running through them. They had people like, getting the ginger Harry Potters out the way or something, the blonde Harry Potters out the way or whatever. And then they just obviously, the chosen few got down to doing proper castings. And also, yes, I know, a few of us are divided on our opinions of certain casting decisions. But anyway, what is a series without controversy? So, anyway, here they go through the auditions of the Golden Trio. And then we move on to graphical design. This is quite a cool little shot. It's a very quick one of them getting up on the train. But actually you see they're using LED screens instead of like blue or green screen. Obviously that's the old school style now. The good thing about using LED, it gives a more realistic feel for the actors because I feel like they're more in the scene. But also assists in like the color grading and stuff of a scene because they'll get natural reflections. In this example of the bushes going past, you'll get that kind of the shine of that on their faces. And it's more natural. And you don't get that with green screen and that sort of stuff. And it's a pain in the butt in post to fix that kind of thing. And now we have a shot off the trolley. Runestone Ripple, which is a new one. I've got Sugar Quills and more. Bertie Bott's Every Flavour Beans. This is more of like an old school style pyramid box. I think it was almost like a circus style previous, but the movies, they're more of a circus style kind of thing. This is more of an old school pyramid box, sort of aging things more, making it look more older. Again, it's kind of like Anglo-Saxon style. The colours, the muted colours and stuff like that. The chocolate frog. Looks like an actual frog. I'm not sure I'd actually want to eat this frog. It doesn't look like chocolate. It's just too much froggy-like to me. But anyway, it's super, uber realistic chocolate frogs. Also, that box, actually, imagine opening that box for chocolate frogs. That'd be great. Gringotts is way more sensible, more adult representation. But notice around here, there's a lot more foliage and a more natural feel to the kind of square here. This one throws you out. You think it's the 3 broomsticks. It's not. It is the leaky cauldron because the 3 broomsticks is in Hogsmeade and we don't go there for a few books' time. But, of course, the butterbeer can be made in Hogsmeade by this company. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, leaky cauldron. So now we skip through a few filler shops they kind of made for the series because obviously some are mentioned in the books. But obviously you need to fill a whole flipping street load of these things. So we need more. These scrolls spinning around, they look at an open area, kind of like an archway thing. It doesn't look like a proper shop, but it could be just behind on the left-hand side. This could be Nolikins for Scrolls and Skins. It's from an illustrated edition. We'll find out when the series comes out. And then we hear from Janet McTeer, who plays McGonagall. She talks about leading the kids into the Great Hall and how amazing that was. When I go to the Studio Tour, going through those doors is still amazing every time I go through there. She then talks about the buzz of the place and how she can hear the energy of the kids as she's preparing for a scene. So she's got her head down, preparing for her next scene. All of a sudden, there's kids going bananas in the background, which is sounds like a great place to work. And now we move on to the nature of magic. We've seen bits leading up to here. They talk about being rooted in nature and nature being the root of magic and stuff like that. It's I kind of like the thing, there's a lot of elemental stuff in magic and earth and fire and blah, 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 blah. So I like that kind of natural feel to the magic. I remember them talking about when they did the sound effects for the movies. You'll notice that the sound effects change from the first movies to the later ones. In the later ones, they're more of a natural sound for the magic happening rather than ping-pongy noises. And as we look at the potions and herbology classrooms, they talk about bringing the natural world onto the sets. They talk about creating a sort of science around the magic. And here we get many shots where you can see nature as part of Hogwarts. And then we move on to design of life, the creature effects department. This is also a big kind of area in the studio tour as well for the movies. Here we see them working on owl movements. 26,000 feathers per owl and 10 owls. They talk about having better and stronger motors for animatronics nowadays, and they can make the animals feel more natural for the actors to hold. For example, Scabbers, when Ron holds Scabbers, it feels more natural. He's got a bit more bend to him, and not like a solid object like most animatronic things nowadays. That's pretty cool. Dugbox. I thought this might have been a frog choir because I didn't think they'll do Dugbox because it's not mentioned in the books, but they kind of filled his classes out somehow in the series. So they are part of Care of Magical Creatures. We know it's part of the lesson with Professor Kettleburn, who we will get to see. Hagrid takes over later. They say that parts of this Dugbog, he can pull off the mollusks. So the students are doing Care of Magical Creatures, and they're helping the Dugbogs by pulling off the mollusks to help them be more free, I guess, move around freer and stuff like that. The Flobberworms look pretty damn grim. And they're also fire crabs. Fire crabs are weird because they're like turtles. I don't know why a fire crab is a turtle, but I don't understand that. That's in the books. Don't blame us. These are from, of course, Newt Scander's books. And now we move on to costumes. Here, this reminds me a lot back in the day with shell suits. They were like super fashion, extremely flammable. But they were the coolest thing at the time. Harry, of course, only gets Dudley's cast-offs, so he doesn't get a shell suit. And they talk about making a contrast to the Wizarding world, so the Muggle clothes versus the Wizarding clothes. So they talk about shell and wood buttons, proper sheep's wool, lots of nature for Dumbledore's cloak. They have like leaf printing, like they actually stamp the leaf shapes on there, not like printed from a machine or like electrically sewn in, with a sewing machine thingy. You can tell a lot all about fashion now. Also, many of the things are hand painted as well. It's all about natural processes, avoiding technology and all sorts of things. Apart from some reason, Snape has a zip in that blinking picture. So they talk all about this design language, and then that Snape picture is contrary to all of it for some bizarre reason. They talk about inky, moody, natural palette for magical people, and synthetic pastels for the Muggles. Pastels colours were all the rage at the time. And then we move on to John Lithgow talking. There's a little snippet here in Dumbledore in his office, which is pretty cool to see. First little glimpse of his office as John talks about his role. Other actors then talk about, kind of rounding up at this point, how the kids are going to grow up being in this series, and they're going to watch them grow, and as they get older, etc., etc. Spotted this. There's even a tree in platform 9 3/4. If you look up into the rafters, the support structures for the roof, it has a tree. There's a tree shape in there. So even though there's nature in platform 9 3/4, a very built place, a very artificial place, has little hints of nature in there as well. As we finish here with Hagrid, aka Nick Frost, who's been narrating the whole thing, drawing it all to a nice close. So in conclusion, there's a lot more natural feel to Hogwarts, closer to nature. Everything looks aged more. Crest and colours are more 10th century. So this is a version of Hogwarts which is more in tune with the founders. Progressed less in terms of technology, ignoring the zip. All the wardrobe for the Muggles is authentic at the time. They actually found these clothes in vintage shops and then recreated them. Wizarding clothes are all made from natural fibres, which is apparently very hard to get hold of in the UK, even though we're full of sheep. And they're all decorated using natural methods. Maybe there's some meaning to the reason why Snape has a zip. It is for Quidditch refereeing, okay? I imagine his clothes around the castle are different. But there must be a reason why they've done this. It will also be interesting to see what Death Eaters wear. Maybe they're wearing zips. Maybe it's kind of like a link, trying to link the two together. So again, there's no mention of Voldemort on the Death Eaters. No, they're not a band. But they're keeping it all like still very friendly and cheery and warm and everything, kind of the feel of these promo materials. Going forward, I have a following questions. I'm trying to work out who the series is for. I kind of mentioned this before, but you watch the movies, especially the first one, you see it's clearly aimed at kids. Like the Hogwarts crests are a more modern style for Hogwarts, kind of like they are a 90s style. They're more colourful, they're synthetically made, you can tell they're bright colours, they're stuff like that. But this Hogwarts is all natural, it's a lot older. I feel like it's more aimed for people from my age downwards, so they're 40s down, trying to get a wider age range, I think, there. Which would make more sense, because the book's been out a while. The tone of the movies is more light. The Dursleys are more sort of bumbling and stuff to offset the weight of them being pains in the asses. Whereas these Dursleys are plain child abusers. They do not seem to be bumbling, they are just mean. I'm also curious to see what this means for the studio tour and Universal Resort, especially in the UK, because we're going to get new merch, obviously. This stuff is all different. So are we going to see in the shops, obviously, 2 versions of each crest and stuff? Are we going to see an expansion of the studio tour in the UK to have a different kind of Hogwarts? I don't know, with a different, showing the new styles. I mean, it's filmed there. Just around the corner. Although I don't want to use the actual sets for like 10 years. Will the studio tour get a Hogsmeade? We've got a Diagon Alley from the movies, but will we get a Hogsmeade from the series? And also, Universal Resort UK, first phase doesn't have any Harry Potter stuff in it. I'm wondering if the second phase is going to get a Harry Potter, but based on the series rather than the movies. So you know this is going to be a license to print money with merch. And yes, I will be buying a new hoodie with a golden eagle, not a raven. So we'll finish with the would you rather. So, would you rather pull a mollusk off a dug bog or examine a flobberworm? Let me know in the comments below. The choices for the last video were new Nimbus 2000, or old Nimbus 2000, and the old one for the win. Interestingly, if you look at the brooms in this documentary and some of the stills, they aren't all that flat style. A lot of them are rounded and variations. So there's more of a variation of styles. I guess they make the Nimbus one look more naff because they make the Nimbus 2001 look more cooler. They streamline it. And then again, the next step from that is the Firebolt, which is probably going to look very blinging. Yeah, I'm glad I took the footrests off. They were a bit weird. I think the point of a broom is it's supposed to look like a broom, so if you're carrying it around, it looks like you're carrying a broom and not a flying machine. But anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for staying with us. I was quite surprised how many views we actually had of the first video back. I was expecting very little. Turns out we've got quite a lot. So anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. We're going to go through some other stuff. We're going to look at some of the characters in more detail and that sort of stuff from the little teasers and from this little documentary as well. Yes, let's enjoy this little trip together. I'm looking forward to winter, even though we're about to go into summer, which is a little disappointing because I love summer. So I'm not quite sure how quickly I want this to come, because I want the sun and the warm and not back into the cold and the wet. Anyway, have a great week, and I'll see you next time.